Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, let's talk about the things they never tell you about going into business before you go into business. I have this saying that I tell all of my clients and everybody in our mastermind groups that are starting their own small business. Business is going to teach you everything you never wanted to know about yourself. That's true for 100% of people. And it has never proven to not be true for anybody, myself included. And look, depending on the way that you look at life and depending on the way that you look at growth and the reason for doing business and all that things, it can be a wonderful, wonderful thing to learn all the things that you never wanted to know about yourself, because that means that you are growing and you are evolving and you are developing. For some people, they don't want that. And if you go into business not knowing what you're in for, it can destroy you. And I have seen it be the case for many people. The reason that this is particularly different or particularly difficult in the coffee industry is because people come in assuming that because there are so many businesses out there that are cafes and roasteries and everybody seems to be having a go, that surely it can't be that hard to have a business in the coffee industry. And I'm here to tell you, friends, it is far more involved having a small business than you could ever imagine if you're not going in with a full scope of what you're in for. Pretty much everybody. And I tried to recount before I started recording this, was there ever anybody who this didn't apply to? But I'm yet to remember anybody. And what the thing that I want to tell you is pretty much everybody that I've spoken to in the coffee industry that went into small business, particularly opening a cafe, has said to me that if they knew what was ahead of them, if they knew how hard it was going to be, they would never have done it. And this is particularly people who did not start within the coffee industry. So people who have worked in finance, people who have worked in different parts of the corporate sector or worked in admin or worked in anywhere. Really smart people, very capable. And they still, 2 and 3 and 4 cafes into it, they've all said if they knew how hard it was going to be, they probably wouldn't have done it. Now, this is not me telling you don't do it. I am not on a mission to stop people from opening cafes. I'm not on a mission to stop people from opening roasteries or any kind of a small business. I am a huge advocate for people getting into small business because I am a big proponent of the ideology of freedom and peace of mind and all of that delicious stuff that we teach in our Life Currencies Mastermind course. But what I am an advocate for is that you go in knowing what you're in for so that you can have a greater chance at success. You need to go in knowing that a part of opening a small business is understanding how to know whether you're financially healthy or not. And that requires you knowing how to read financial statements. It requires you to understand the coffee supply chain. It requires you to understand your local, state, and federal laws around business ownership. It requires you to understand banking systems and capital acquisition strategies. So how do you have enough money? How do you get enough money? It requires you to understand how to create projections, sales projections, and cost projections. It requires you to understand how to build a culture in a team, how to build a customer acquisition plan. It requires you to understand how to market your product and define your product. It requires you how to deal with suppliers, how to deal with architects and design people, how to deal with tradespeople, what to do in the case of an emergency, how to figure out a financial strategy so that you're not working for less than minimum wage at double the hours you used to work when you were in a full-time job. Now, these are all things that most people come into the industry not understanding. And there's things that I haven't mentioned there, things like food safety, things like legal aspects of what happens if you get sued. How do you set up your business so that you're protected? Insurance, so many things that people just assume is not going to be difficult to tackle or combat or any of those things. Now, what ends up typically happening is that people hit their first hard thing, like really hard thing, whether it's challenging their sense of being able to not exist on a lot of money, or whether it's deal with people who are being difficult as employees or the public, or they get haters online, or their Google reviews are lying and their competition is attacking them. All of these are real things that people have to deal with, like the typical real things that people have to deal with. These are not exceptions. These are typical things that exist in the business world today. I don't want you to be discouraged from opening your first business. What I do want you to do is think about how you can empower yourself before you open your first business and not take the lead from what is happening out there in the market. Because I assure you, people are leading you to believe that they are doing much better than what they are doing. And the fact that so many businesses have had to close because of what's going on, some of that, not all of it, but some of it is because particularly the businesses that closed very early on in the pandemic, that is as a result of businesses running on razor thin margins and them not being able to survive even the first couple of months of things going south. So if you are looking in the industry and saying, well, everybody's doing it, please ask the question, how many people are doing it well? How many people are doing it with healthy profit margins? Because this is an industry that operates at the cafe level on about 3% net profit. And I would invite you to ask yourself the question, if you are coming into business for the first time in the coffee industry, what margins are you expecting? And if you don't believe me that it's a 3% net profit margin, do your research. These numbers are not just coming from the people who I've dealt with. These are numbers that come from a bunch of restaurant groups and coffee industry surveys that will show that these are the net profit margins that you should be expecting. Now that shouldn't be what we're operating on. It really shouldn't. But the one way that we get there to better profit margins, my first goal is to start seeing businesses earn 10 to 15% net profit. Now, if you do want to get there, our first task as an industry needs to be making sure that the next generation of small business owners is empowered with all the tools that they need to start understanding how to run a business better before they open their first business. If you need help, join one of our mastermind groups. Until then, tune into the podcast, and we hope we empower you with all the information that you need to get you thinking about what you need to start in your first endeavor as a small business owner. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.